डेल्टा फर्स्ट तो जो मेयर कैंडिडेट ने मिलिसा ग्रैनम ਉਹ ਸ਼ੋਅ 'ਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਜੋ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਫਰਸਟ ਦੀ ਸਲੇਟ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਨੇਗੇ
There are a number of ways I would look at making things more transparent for the public so that they can understand why decisions are made. And I have a leadership style that is one of collaboration and bringing people together and bringing different levels of government together. If you're busy fighting with each other, you can't make good decisions. If you can't get to a table together.
ਡੈਲਟਾ ਫਰਸਟ ਤੋਂ ਜੋ ਮੇਅਰਲ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਨੇ ਮਿਲਿਸਾ ਗ੍ਰੈਨਮ ਉਹ ਸ਼ੋਅ 'ਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਣਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਪਿਛੋਕੜ ਹੈ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਕਰੀਅਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਅਤੇ ਜੋ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਫਰਸਟ ਦੀ ਸਲੇਟ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਨੇਗੇ ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਕਾਉਂਸਲਰ ਲਈ ਖੜੇ ਹੋ ਰਹੇ ਨੇਗੇ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਏਜੰਡਾ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਵਿਜ਼ਨ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਅਤੇ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਨੇ ਓਵਰਆਲ ਸਰਕਮਸਟਾਂਸਿਸ ਨੇ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨਸ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਉਹ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਸੋ ਮਚ ਮਿਲਿਸਾ ਫॉर joining us on the morning show on Shere Punjab Radio.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
First of all, please tell our listeners a bit about you, your professional career. How did you end up, deciding the fact that you'll be contesting the mayoral race?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. So I started my career with the Delta Police Department, where I was the corporate planning manager. Mm-hmm. So there I was responsible for strategic planning. I worked with the Civilian Oversight Board. So I did that for 12 years and really came to know sort of the public safety issues that we're dealing with in Delta. I then went on to the Surrey Police Service, where I was in the center of that transition for 5 years. Working with the leadership at Surrey Police Service to establish and confirm Surrey Police as the police of jurisdiction for that city. I then went on and I'm now working as the Director of Board Governance for the BC Lottery Corporation. So I work in a senior leadership position with a Crown Corporation. So I bring a lot of governance and government experience. Working for close to 2 decades in local government, I have a very good and strong understanding of governance, of public safety issues in Delta, and want to bring that to the table.
And now that you've told us about your background, what all is wrong in Delta when it comes to governance?
So I wouldn't frame anything as wrong in Delta. I think it's a beautiful place for all of us to live. What I'd like to see is better leadership at City Council. With my expertise in governance, when I look at City Council and I look at Metro Vancouver, there are a number of ways I would look at making things more transparent for the public so that they can understand why decisions are made. They can understand more clearly how their tax dollars are spent. And I have a leadership style that is one of collaboration and bringing people together and bringing different levels of government together for the benefit of Delta.
So what is the current leadership lacking right now, the City Council?
Well, right now the City Council is lacking the ability to work together. It's very clear that there was a fracture over the last 2 years, and that was one. When I worked in Surrey, I saw that happen there. And when a city council can't work together for the greater good, it impacts good decision making, and it really impacts the leadership there. So if you're busy fighting with each other, you can't make good decisions. If you can't get to a table together and talk about things like oil pipelines, port expansions, making sure we have good health care, making sure we have good transit, dealing with the affordability crisis. If we can't work together as a city council, we can't make good decisions and we can't advocate for the community and for our residents.
And what is Delta First vision for Delta? How do you see the city growing in next 5 or 10 years? At the same time, tell our listeners also a bit about your colleagues who are contesting for the councillors.
Yeah. So our vision for the next 5 years for me is really about opening up the doors to City Council again for the public. So over the last few years, we've lost the ability to ask questions. Council has removed question and answer period at City Council. So if you walk in as a taxpayer in Delta and you have a question about something on the agenda in a council meeting, you do not have the ability right now to ask that question. They've removed citizen advisory committees. And those are really important to me. I think when you're in a leadership position, understanding what's going on for everyday residents, whether it's around youth and seniors, agriculture, economic development, all of the different things where council's making policy decisions and really important decisions, those things need to come back, and we need to bring residents back into the conversation, because right now it's city council's over here making decisions and the residents are over here being affected by those decisions, and there's no way right now for the two to talk to each other. So our vision really is about, I can frame it this way for you. I have 22-year-old twins, and I would like for my children, my 22-year-olds, to set their roots in Delta. But right now, when you look at Delta, it's expensive. We don't necessarily have the transit that we require to get between even North and South Delta is challenging. We've lost a lot of our healthcare resources. When my twins were young, we had access to walk-in clinics, we had access to healthcare nurses, and that's all gone in Delta, and we need to bring all of that back. So for me, the vision is that we can establish and bring back a community, a place where young adults want to put their roots down and grow this city with the older population as well. As it relates to my running mates, I'm incredibly proud of the group I'm running with. We're not running a full slate because I don't believe in having an entire block of people who run together and make decisions together. I want to see some diversity on the city council. So we have Jap Puri, who's from North Delta. He's relatively new, moving to Delta. He's putting his roots down here with his wife, Dea, and they want to start a family in North Delta. He has a lot of policy experience. He works with the airport authority, so emergency planning, policy writing, really that sort of fundamental work that goes on. Tammy Hansen, who is, she's an accountant. She's a chartered professional accountant. She works with multiple nonprofits in the city. And she's actually, as far as I know, the only accountant running for a city council spot. And from all of my years in governance and working with boards, it's really important to have an accountant on your board or at your city council table because they know how to ask the tough questions. You bring in very experienced, really smart finance staff into your organization, and somebody needs to know how to have that conversation at that level with them. And then third is Alex, and Tammy lives in Ladner, and third is Alexander Fisher. Alex Fisher, he lives in Tawasin, and he's very much a proponent for bringing transparency back to city council and really bringing residents back into the conversation around decisions that are being made. So really, I'm really proud of my team.
So Melissa, what was that moment that made you decide that you want to contest for the mayor and, also create a team of like-minded people or the civic team that could, help you in that endeavor of yours or ambition of yours?
Right. So when I have to go back a little bit to when I was working in Surrey and sort of watched a city council that didn't get along and how it impacted confidence, especially in the Surrey Police Service transition, and really impacted the police officers, the civilian staff, and residents' confidence in what was going on. And then when I saw that same sort of dysfunction form in Delta, as a resident, I was frustrated. As a taxpayer, I was frustrated because I've seen firsthand what fractured councils can do. And so I was thinking about it, and then Lois Jackson, the former mayor of Delta for 20 years, and Jim Sesford approached me and asked me if I would be interested in running for city council. And I said, let me think about that. It's interesting. I've always wanted to get into politics at some point. I'm mid-career right now, so things like my pension matter to me and, where I am in my career. And so it's such a fundamental shift to go to a different sort of direction in your career in my late 40s. And so I chatted with them at length about that. And I said, if I do this, I want to really put my thumbprint of leadership on what we're doing. So I said, I think I'd like to take a big swing and bring my experience, because I have a lot of governance experience, bring that to the table. I think we're in a world right now where people are frustrated with politicians. I think the conversation is about bringing some fresh thinking. And so I thought, with my skill set, the fact that I raised my children here in Delta, my leadership style, I think all really fit well for the mayor spot. We then became very picky about who we were bringing on our team, because I think about who am I going to work with for the next 4, potentially 8 years. And so we were very picky about who we brought in, and it were people who had different skill sets from each other, different life experiences, and just really round out the group.
If in case you win, so what will be the top issue that you will be addressing on priority, number one issue that's on top of your mind?
Right. So what we've heard at length from residents is around development and densification. And so the first thing I would do is bring back things like question and answer period and reestablish citizen advisory committees. But when it comes to big policy decisions, I would be looking to review the official community plan to ensure that it works for residents, but also for developers. I think I would imagine there's frustration for developers right now who are only following the rules that have been set for them, and then they get so much pushback from the residents because it's not necessarily working for the community, for the neighborhood that people live in. So I would want to look at the official community plan and densification from the perspective of, okay, we need to create housing for everything from my 22-year-old twins to my mother who wants to age in place, and everything in between. So market, purpose-built rental housing, co-op housing, housing for young adults, housing for seniors. And then how do we ensure that we layer all of the planning on top of that? So we need to get some healthcare back into Delta. We need to have better transit for our youth to get to and from work. We need to give them job opportunities through economic development. So nothing is sort of separate and distinct from each other. It's all part of a bigger picture, and it all rests within our planning for the future in Delta.
And you've mentioned healthcare a lot. So how do you see the provincial government's role in it? Because in the past or pretty recently, it has happened that provincial government has, given out contracts, then, backtracked from it or cancelled them, which has brought a lot of flack for the government as well as, disappointment from the municipalities.
Yes.
So how will you deal with that kind of a government and that kind of situations where they can promise something, they can also give out the contracts, but at the end they can cancel it out?
They can cancel them.
Yeah.
Very, very frustrating for the community. Long-term care is really, really important for our community. We're an aging population. And this is where I go back to, we need a city council that can be at a table together and fight together for Delta. We need to put Delta first, and that's not just a saying. It's truly how I feel in my heart. And I'm a fighter. When I worked in the Surrey Police Service transition, I didn't give up. Every day we got to work, we kept working, we kept fighting, we kept pushing, and I don't give up on things. I can be quite stubborn, I would say. If I was in charge right now, and the cancellation of that long-term care facility, I would be on the ferry over to Victoria. I would be demanding meetings. I would be demanding bringing things back, and I'd be at least fighting. And I don't feel right now like we're fighting enough for our city and for our residents. And that's really, for me, the ability to coordinate your efforts as a council team, and then also having the fight in your heart and the spirit in your heart to say, no, this isn't good enough for our community.
And the Massey tunnel, it's a big issue, traffic congestion and its expansion.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending issue, and it's going to take like ages for it to
Yes.
complete. How will you deal with it? And it's a very big issue within the community as well.
So it's the Massey Tunnel has been something that we've been talking about since before I had children. So this has been almost 30 years we've been talking about it. And in the meantime, we've had, you look out into the region, we've had the Golden Years Bridge built. We've had a replacement of the Patello Bridge. We've had a replacement of the other major infrastructure. We're expanding the freeway out to Chilliwack. All of these infrastructure projects, and for some reason, Delta has this, I call it a mystery around it, where we can't make a decision and stick to it. The federal government has just announced, or a few weeks ago announced, $3 billion for that tunnel replacement, and that will get done. And that will get done because the government wants to expand the port, and we're looking now at a pipeline. So the tunnel conversation, I think, will be over because it will be built, because the federal government has an interest in it being built in order to allow better flow of goods, and particularly when it comes to building the port and potentially a pipeline, that they need to have better access, and the tunnel just causes problems. So yes, it's been a real problem for residents for 20 years, and it continues to be a problem, but I think that problem will solve itself because the government has its eyes on much bigger projects, and the tunnel is in the way of that right now.
And are you in favor of the pipeline and the expansion of the ports?
I think about that question a lot, and I think we are part of a bigger picture in Delta here. We're looking at sovereignty and opening up trade with other parts of the world and not having dependencies on the United States of America. I totally agree with all of that. What I want to see is when we do start building these massive infrastructure projects, that Delta benefits from it. We talk about another recreation facility in North Delta. That should be funded. We talk about needing an exit out of Ladner. That should be funded. We need better healthcare. We need better transit systems. Let's get more money into our school system. So all the things that we can benefit from that, we need to be at the table advocating for Delta.
Who should fund it, the provincial or the federal?
Federal government.
The federal
I
government.
believe with the amount of money that's going to be made, these are, when they talk about $100 billion in generating revenue for the country, with everything landing in Delta, that there is no reason why we should be not getting, what we asked for in terms of a deal.
And like you said, like you pointed out, there's a lot of frustration amongst the people of Canada across board when it comes to politicians. And usually they are also frustrated from the fact that when they're campaigning and whenever they're out of power, they make tall claims, a lot of promises. And as soon as they come into power, they become really lazy, or they are, infinite excuses when it comes to the basic issues of affordability, healthcare, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They've seen that in the past, and they're also experiencing it in right now, currently.
Yeah.
So how can you guarantee whatever you're promising during the campaign, you'll be able to execute it and don't become lazy or, fall back on them?
Yeah. So for me, I'm very, very careful with what I say and what I promise. And because I am not inside the room when decisions are being made, we go back to the idea of transparency. There have been decisions where I can't find how they came to those decisions. So I can't make a promise about something that I don't know if I can keep it. So what I'm promising to our residents is good governance, transparency in our decisions, transparency in how we spend our tax dollars, and really communicating these things to residents. So when it comes to massive infrastructure projects within the city bounds, I can't make those promises at this point because I need to be able to see, the books clearly with Tammy Hansen, who I hope to have elected along with me at the council table. So I'm very, very careful because, like you, I've heard promises made, but not always promises kept. And so I'm very careful with the words that come out of my mouth because words have meaning, and I don't want to make a promise that I can't keep.
And your vision about the taxes, do you plan to increase them, decrease them, keep it at the same rate?
Right. So for me, I think taxes are always something where, again, the promise of, I will never promise a 0% tax increase because I don't, that with the cost of living going up, you can't make those types of promises. What I can promise is that we will take a very close look at the budget. We want to do a line-by-line budget review to ensure that where the money is going and where the money is allocated is where it needs to go. And then from there, we're hoping that we'll find some savings to keep tax rates as low as possible and just making sure that government is efficient as possible, and that you can see where your tax dollars are going, and not in some complicated spreadsheet, but that you can look at it and say, okay, I understand how you're spending my hard-earned money.
Anything else you'd like to add in the closing?
No, I do appreciate your time. If people have questions, we do make ourselves very accessible through our website, and you can contact any of the four of us either through social media or on our website. And I appreciate your time and allowing me an opportunity to share my message.
Thank you so much for joining us today morning, and hope to interview again in the future.
I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.